Greetings. I am Fire Lotus, and this is another live Witches chat. Excuse my coughing. So, there are multiple things that I'm going to talk about today. I know the lighting is weird. My house is kind of chaotic right now. But anyways, I'll get to that. I'm also not actually using my microphone today because I have to go out later on to replace my headphones because there's a short in them. So yeah, but anyways, I am Fire Lotus. I've been doing these for about 2 to 3 years now. We go over everything except for basically politics. But yeah, anything else is basically on the table. If you hear a dog barking, so sorry, my neighbor's dog, and if you hear a cat, that's my familiar. He just likes to be seen sometimes. So, I am going to talk about demons from what I understand demons are, and a couple of things that you can do to protect yourself. It was actually messaged to me if I were to talk about this due to a couple of conversations. But before that, there is something that I need to address. I don't know. I've not posted it on here. But if you follow me on TikTok and or Instagram, I made a post on there. So, before I say this, I still have not found out if it's actually trolling or if this person is serious. But on April 29th, a practitioner, she is on TikTok, but I originally believe she is from YouTube. I'm not actually going to state who she is, but it was brought to my attention that apparently there are practitioners that think that there's this ancient demon that's making chaos across the United States, and they're taking over covens, and all the deities are going to come together and fight and put this demon back in Tartarus. Again, I do not know if she was serious or if she was joking when she tweeted that out, but that's bullshit. For one, deities have other things to do than that. We also don't live in Charmed, and I would say that was LARPing. Now, the reason I wanted to bring this up is because, like I said, this person has a very, very huge big following. So it very well could be her trolling somebody. But the problem is, nowadays with the internet, especially people that are not practitioners, if they see something like that, they may take it serious. This is the shit that I'm talking about that's going to wind up sparking another satanic panic. This is the BS bullshit that we don't need. There's also this rumor going around that the veil apparently is going to fully drop. This is kind of telephone at this point because I don't know the full story, but apparently there are also practitioners going around saying that the other side is about to take over the world and things are going to kind of go back to what we've been taught through social media and fucking Hollywood. It's bullshit. Even with Fays, I started trolling people this weekend, and I said that I was trolling them, because there's just so much bullshit information out there. When it comes to Fae or little people, I'm using that term because Fae originally, from what most people think of Fae, from what Americans think of Fae, are completely different things. But I have worked with the Fae a couple of times. They're not like people are projecting them to be. They may move some stuff around, but, they're not going to come and kidnap you. They're not going to fucking, switch your baby out, a changeling. No. You can piss them off, and they can make things go horribly wrong around your house, but in general, you have to think, just like with demons, just like with angels, just like with deities, or any other high power like that. Why the fuck would they want to fuck with us? Unless you fucked with them first, okay? So, now, demon. I hate the word. I cannot fucking stand that word. The reason is because, especially if you were born in the church, or if you were raised on a church, spiritual, or a Christian belief, we automatically know demons, bad, evil, negative, all this other bullshit. But outside of a biblical stance, if you actually research and look at demons, there's still controversy behind it. Some people work with demons openly, that they're not like what they're being portrayed in books. I've had a couple experiences with demons, or something that I would consider negative. Now, from my understanding, demon would be what most people think of as basically a negative or evil spirit that died, and their soul kind of kept that anger, and voila, we have a demon. The funny thing is, though, in paranormal research, when you hear demon, it always goes with a cliche, 3 times knocking, basically it's supposed to be mocking the church, and all this other bullshit. Like I said, I hate the word demon. I normally say like haints or nasties or something along those lines. But a demon itself, though, is basically something that was never human. Um, if you look into demonology, a lot of people think demonology is like working with demons. It's not. Demonology is just the study of demons' names and the information about them. Because if you were to say you were to go through an exorcist or you were to be part of an exorcist, the entire point of that exorcist, besides expelling that demon from the person's body, is to actually get its name. Once you get the true name of a demon, you have control. This also goes into the higher and lower keys of Solomon. Basically, they are sigils that were created to trap and control demons. That's high magic, as in, if you are literally like 2 years into this, I would stay the fuck away from that. Um, because a lot of people have this, like, a lot of people in a lot of cultures have this thing where, like, oh, it's okay, I don't believe in them. That doesn't mean they don't believe in you. Now, the funny thing is, if we're talking about the biblical demons, the only time you hear of an actual possession are some of the holiest of people. Now, most people would argue, well, that's just because the demon is trying to, like, say fuck you to the church, and yeah. But basically, from what I understand, there are things that most people would consider demons. I do not like using that term. I either say they're old or they're a haint or nasty. I have had multiple experiences with them. Like I've said before, multiple times. I've never actually deep dived into it or told my stories. Um, but when I was younger, not knowing what the fuck I was doing, thinking I was this all-powerful witch, started messing with a couple darker things. Now, would I say they're demons from, like, the Bible? No. Were they negative? Yes. Did I get everything I want? Yes. Did every single time I get something, did that come with a huge, huge cost, as in I lost something else in my life? Yes. Which is one of the reasons I no longer work with that type of energy. Now, before I go into this, from my experiences, they are going to be different. We've talked about this before. The POG, basically basically they can't prove it, but it's certain experiences that you have in your practice. That's what I'm talking about. This is what I'll be sharing. Because I do know some people that I've become friends with who do work with what we consider demons. They work with that type of energy, and they're not evil. They don't go around sacrificing babies or all the other bullshit. Anyways, um, I started dealing with something. I technically did not know what it was until later on. And I'm not going to say I made a deal with it, but there were a couple of issues that it handled for me. And in the process, I also had to help it. Every single thing I wanted, like I said, I got. The problem was every single time I got one of those items, or when I got something out of it, it took something else away. There was another experience where, I'm not going to say I was possessed, but there was an experience where one of my old roommates, again, I was fresh, I think I just turned 17 or 18. I may have been actually a little bit younger than that. I was messing around and I just went through this long meditation, probably about an hour off and on. And as I woke up from that meditation, I didn't actually wake up. It wasn't me. I blacked out. And let's just say one or two things happened that I cannot explain. She cannot explain either. But shortly after that, we blessed the house, and the certain items that I was working with, I destroyed. I'm not going to say how I destroyed that, but I destroyed them. Now, for one, if you are working, or if you're just now starting to reach out to a deity, possibly a spirit guide, basically a spirit or entity that you don't quite know what it is, these are some of the things to look out for in my experience that I've experienced, and these are some of the things to look out for. For one, a deity or spirit guide or ancestor is not going to ask you to do something that you're uncomfortable with. They're not going to put your life in danger. They're not going to tell you to do something that basically goes against your moral values. If you have an entity like that does ask you to do something, red flag number 1. If they want you to hurt somebody, red flag number 2. If they want you to do something that, like I said, completely takes you out of your comfort zone, red flag number 3. I would go ahead and cut communication with them completely, and whatever you do in your practice to cleanse or, clear out that area, I would do that ASAP. On top of this, If you do not know a symbol or sigil or anything of those matters, if you cannot find enough research on it, do not use it in your practice. Supernatural is one of the reasons I hate that TV show, because some of the symbols they use are actual, real, true occult symbols. Not to mention, there's been multiple other people that have tried bringing back and making it look really fun to use the higher Lesakir Solomon. If you don't understand that type of energy, that type of magic, and the type of entities that have to do with the higher and lower keys of Solomon, I would not fucking mess with it. Because even though it is very true, it's very rare for someone to be possessed, everybody focuses on possession, but they don't realize there's a step before possession, which is called oppression. Okay? Now, again, we're not using the term demon, but I'm going to say nasty or haints. When this starts, or if you get an attachment, one of the reasons if you're going to a cemetery or graveyard, you need to make sure you know what you're doing, because you can get a hitchhiker or an attachment. And an attachment, basically, you're not being haunted, you're not being necessarily possessed, they're oppressing you. Basically, when a negative energy like that tries to basically move in on your life, for one, they're going to attach themselves to you, which means it's not your house, it's not your property, it's not your car, it's not a random object that you brought in your house, it's actually affecting you. Some of the things to look out for around this, now, for one, if you have any mental health issues, this, I have them too, but if you have any mental health issues, seek out somebody who does not practice magic, but also knows about your lifestyle before you automatically think you're possessed, please. Because this type of stuff, especially when it comes to magical practitioners and people who have mental illnesses, these are the type of things that can also, if not gone about the right way, it could cause somebody to go into psychosis, basically, where they completely lose touch with reality. So please be smart with this. But if you do think you have a negative entity, for one, do not go to your house burning cleansing sages, because if you do, you don't know what it is. No, I'm not saying reach out and try to connect with it. That's a big no-no too. But there are multiple things to look out for. Nightmares, when you normally do not have nightmares. If you randomly wake up with bruises or cuts or random things on your body that you cannot explain. If you start to suffer from depression, if you've never had something, okay? Now, other things are also going to occur, but it depends on the type of spirit. You can get the whole knocking 3 times. You can get scratching, gnarls, snarls, growling. If you hear any of that and you cannot explain it, that's when you bring it to somebody's attention. Now, the reason, and me and my partner learned this the hard way, the reason you do not do what Zach did on Ghost Adventures, when you go to a haunted location and you just start picking and like fucking invoking it, pissing it off, is because you don't know what you're working with. And if, say, by some weird chance, you actually do get something from the biblical portion of demons or nasties or haints, you're gonna need to know how to do it, because an attachment, it's like a leech, basically. And the more it drains you, the stronger it can become. But like I said before, when it comes to demonic possession, it is extremely rare. And if it does happen, they're not going to talk about it on the news. But I've done 2 exorcisms on properties, not a person. I've never done an exorcism on a property. I mean, on a person. I wouldn't do that. But there are multiple things you can do. Now, when it comes to this type of energy, basically anything in any religion or even a spiritual practice that stands for protection can work. The problem is, though, if you get an attachment, now this can also happen if you were to astral travel and you don't know the proper ways of setting up protection, you can get what is known as leeches. Now, it's not like they're not oppressing you. These leeches will basically, metaphysically, they're stuck to your body. They're making your anxiety worse. They're making your depression worse. It's basically like a funk you just can't get over. And they're extremely hard to get rid of. I've had to deal with 2 of them, and they were on me. But basically, for one, don't go out searching for negative energy. Don't go out and try calling on something, if there has been a location like a graveyard or a haunted place, don't go there intentionally trying to get something attached to you. because on all the cases and all the information that I've researched and stuff like that, these things can present themselves in different ways. Now, on the property that we used to live on, one of the most haunted properties I've ever experienced, it had everything. It's also one of the second or third times, it's technically the third time, and the first time where I was actually scared. We had this one, it was a three bedroom, double wide trailer, right? Well, one of the third bedrooms in the back, we used as a workout room. Or, like, if we had guests over, they would stay in there. And we had this cold spot that would literally move. Like, you could literally, it would be right here, and then a minute later, you could walk 4 feet away, and it was still there. Like, it would literally move. So because I used to ghost hunt when I was in my teenage years, like 16, 17, 18, I used to blog about it. We went to a couple of real haunted locations, and then I've had experiences with actually getting negative things off the property. Which in that particular case that I'm talking about, it was actually an object that was brought onto the property. But we were using this ghost app in the App Store, because some of those are actually real. Now, it was a spirit box, which is a device that basically runs through radio frequencies that's primarily static, and you can get like EVPs and stuff like that. Anyways, my partner was in the bathroom and in our bedroom, so the master bathroom, and I walked in there and I was using it. I didn't really hear anything, but as I got in the center of it, now the window directly in front of me had no curtains, and my partner's car was parked there, and you could see the rear view, the brake lights, right? And then due to the fact that the light in the room that I was in was on, it was shining out, and it made that light part of his car reflective red. These are all key points. And I'm in there and I'm asking questions, like, what the fuck do you want? Why are you here? Why are you fucking with me? Because what I learned living on this property is things like this, negative entities like this, especially with people that have any type of, I hate using this word, but a mental disorder, bipolar, depression, PTSD, those, especially if you go through an episode, it's like a loophole to where they can slip in. Basically, when the negative activity picked up, I would go through it more with my bipolar and PTSD. We could never figure out what it was. It was the actual entities there influxing me and fucking with my bipolar. Now, in this particular experience, it's the only experience that I've ever actually had where things got slightly physical. Now, what I mean by that was I was asking questions, and I felt like somebody walk up behind me, and all the hairs on my back of my neck stood up. Right at that point, I heard like a mixture between a snarl and a growl in my ear. And then something flew past, like I saw something black go this way. So I look out the window, and right there where his brake lights were reflecting, it went completely black. Basically, something had went through the window and ran across the car. When I tell you I jumped about 1.5 feet in the air, and instead of walking across the living room through the other rooms to get to where my partner was, I basically just hop, skipped, and jumped. Scared the shit out of me. Still to this day, we don't know what it was. On that property, we experienced a little bit of everything. You had voices, I've seen things, you had apparitions, you had not really poltergeist, we didn't really have like stacking shit, you would hear random noises throughout the night that you couldn't explain. We had non-residual, we had residual, we had Native Americans, we had orbs. There's a picture of a dog that we didn't have dogs on the property at that one point in time that showed up in the picture and wasn't anywhere else. But that's my experience, and I've had other experiences as well. It's always about protection. For one, you can have as many symbols and protective symbols, sigils, and even tattoos all on your body. If you don't actually believe that they're going to protect you, then it's not going to work. When it comes to this type of protection against like darker entities, it does still go on faith. Now, what I mean by that is faith in your own ability and your belief in that symbol. For example, if you were dealing with an actual like biblical demon and you were to hold up a crucifix for it, well, if you don't follow that belief and you don't really believe in that crucifix, it's not really going to protect you. But there are simple things that you can do. For one, don't go out and actually look for this shit. For two, all different types of protections. There's runes, there's the binding and warding runes that I showed on here from my own book that you can put up on your property. Spirit bottles work very well. If you don't want to actually hang bottles up, make a little pillow, right? Hand sew this pillow and put rice and bird seeds in it and sew a design on it. Traditionally, and even in some Chinese cultures, and I believe Japanese cultures, it's a spirit trap. They believe you can also put a broom on the outside of your house, but they believe that when a taint or an evil spirit comes around, before they can go inside your house, they have to count all the rice and bird seeds, thus running out of time. Daylight will show up and they just kind of cease to exist. Those are multiple things that you can do. Now, the way that I have my house set up, we have not really had, knock on wood when I say this, we have not really had a negative entity except for when I first moved here. And it wasn't negative as in demonic, but whatever the fuck it was, it did not like my partner at all. He actually physically saw it one night, and we believe it was the thing that was also causing us to have sleep paralysis at the exact time. And y'all know about sleep paralysis. It's not a thing that it's not contagious. Like, two people are not supposed to be able to experience it at the exact same time. And if you do, that's a very, very, very valid sign that you may have something in your house. Now, for a practitioner, if you experience sleep paralysis and you don't see what's typically seen, it could also be a sign that somebody is fucking with you. Now, with all this, I talked to y'all a week before, I think it was a week before, about how my left shoelace had broke. Yesterday, as I was putting on my shoe, it just so happened the other foot, my right foot, and the right shoelace on that broke. So I will actually be putting up and redoing my protection around this property. Now, with that, I also learned another thing that you can do is, and I talked about this before, I recently learned that in, like, Southern lore, I'm not going to say folklore, but, like, magical practices, I grew up in Alabama. And we had this family tradition where, like, every 3 to 4 months, we would completely rearrange all of our furniture. I didn't understand it except for, like, we just wanted a change. I actually recently discovered that they believe the reason is because energy can see things, right? Well, if a practitioner or somebody tried to throw a root at you or basically throw something at you, a jinx or a hex, they know what your property looks like. But if you're constantly changing things around, it will confuse the energy that's being sent to you, and it can possibly just give up and go the fuck away. So that's one thing you definitely should do. On top of that, I've talked about this before. Cinnamon brooms, if you're not allergic to it, cinnamon brooms are really cheap. You can get them around Christmas time and fall at Dollar General for $1. Rose bushes. If you have rose bushes on your property, they are protective. If you've ever walked to a cemetery or a graveyard, some of the main plants that you're going to find is holly bushes, rose bushes. The reason that is, they stand for protection. And it's so funny, too, because churches did it. Well, depending on that versus cemetery graveyard. But if you look at a lot of these places, they have protective plants planted inside of them. You can do the same thing. She shells. If you love, like, the sea, put shells in your windows of your house. That stands for protection. If you do want to go a little bit more, like, church-wise, biblical-wise, and I've done it before, anoint your doors instead of a cross. Use olive oil and a pentagram. Okay? Also, a recent thing that I'd never thought about, having a house deity. Now, what I mean by that is it does not actually have to be a god or goddess. It can be an ancestor. But if you do work with your spirit guides and ancestors, ask them as well to keep negative shit out. Now, when it comes to an actual, like, demon, it's not randomly going to happen. You're going to have to put yourself in a situation to where it could be there. Versus, like, say you went on vacation and went to a very, very historical place. That could be something. Another interesting thing to look up, there's, what is it called? Jericho? I think it is Jericho. The city where all the biblical stuff happened, where Christ was crucified and all of that, there's actually a syndrome that people get when they go there, where basically they think they're possessed. They go into this psychotic state where they think they're possessed. And it's happened so many times that I think it's called Jericho. Jericho syndrome, I think it's called that. I don't know what it's called. Or Jerusalem syndrome. That syndrome. Um, but you would have to put yourself into that. But in general, like I've dealt with nasties, basically just weird wandering spirits, and I've dealt with old things. Now, normally when you come across something old, it's not really going to, like, they're going to be more neutral. Succubus and incubus also fall into this. We know all about the controversy where this one guy who I talked to, that's out of Australia, I believe, was going around teaching people on how to summon a succubus or incubus and basically get it to work for you. Doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. I've also dealt with an incubus and I've dealt with a succubus. They're not fun. Especially because that was one of the first times that I actually saw something. The person that I'm talking about who had it was talking to me, and they turned, and when they turned, all I see in the replace of, like, they turned like this, so, like, right there where their body should have been after they turned, I actually saw my first entity, and it scared the shit out of me, because it actually reminded me of an old hag. It was this, like, woman. Her face was all sucked in, almost like skeleton wise, and like slightly like dehydrated wise. And then she had crazy thin ass hair. And she literally looked at me, and then, like, in the split second that my brain registered what I just saw, it was gone. Um, so yeah, that scared the shit out of me. But like I said, now when it does come to hauntings, like regular house hauntings, these are also things to look at. If you go antiquing, look at the antiques that you recently brought in. If you go thrift store, look at the stuff you just brought in. A lot of people, when they do start to experience hauntings in their house, they automatically, they're like, oh my god, I'm haunted. No, it may not be you. It may be something you brought in. It may possibly have been on the property itself. Because we do have spirits wandering the lands. Like, they're not just... I don't believe they're stuck at a specific location unless it had something to do with their death. But like I said before, my house is set up kind of like a bathhouse. If you've seen that anime, what is it called? Oh my god, why am I forgetting this? It's a Japanese anime that, like, blew up here in America. It's by the same people who created Kiki's delivery service. But it's not. I think it's called. Is it Spirited Away? The bathhouse. That's basically how I have my house set up. As in, any spirit, as long as they are not negative in any way, shape, or form, is welcome to be here at my house at any point in time. But if something more negative does come away, and thank you for that. Yes, Spirited Away is the movie. But you can set your house up like that. Now, a key point, if you do have a negative spirit. Now, I've kind of said something differently because, like I've said before, spirits are not always going to use a window or a door. But on top of that, if you do hear, because we had something that happened recently, if you hear knocking, and you're like home alone, and you hear knocking, and you look out and you don't see anybody, do not open your door and walk outside. Because if it is a spirit, they're basically asking permission to come in, and you opening that door signifies that spirit coming in. Like I said, I had that experience, and I was home alone. It was like midday, and I walked to the back door, looked out all the windows, nothing. Looked on my front door, nothing. And it continuously happened. And yes, you may say, well, you have cats. Yes, cats are not going to knock on a door. That's another thing. If you do start experiencing supernatural experiences, as much as I used to hate this, my partner helped me realize it, though. Before you automatically assume that it's spiritual activity, just basically go mundane. Think in a mundane way. Could it be raccoons? Could it be this? Could it be that? Could it be this? And the crazy thing is I've never actually came up with a surefire way to, like, if you think you have spirits in your house, what is a safer way of going about trying to figure out what it is? Now, the safest way that I could say, if you do read tarot cards or oracles, use them. I would be against... Oh, okay, well, disclaimer. Cats have been known to knock on doors. But again, if you look out the window, you would see that. Like, the knocking that I heard was like somebody, like cops are knocking on my door. But basically, look, like, if you see a cat outside, then it could be a cat. Of course, go feed it. But, like, if nothing's there and you get a weird feeling, do not open the door. You could be inviting it in. Same with I can never think of the actual word that it's called, but there's a type of magic, multiple types, where you're making an energetic being to go out. Now, in some cultures, people actually call those witches familiars. That's what you're doing. You're sending your familiar to do your dirty deed. Astral projection as well. That's another thing people need to start looking into, as well as protection against astral travel. So when you're setting up your protections and wards against your house, set up protection and set that intention that even if it's astral travel or second sight or journeying, nobody's going to be able to get in your domain. Now, the number one thing I would suggest, and anybody can do this, and you can turn anything into what I'm about to say, certain types of wards can actually be physical objects that you hang in your house. If they fall for no reason, that's an indication that something or someone is trying to get inside your house or through your barriers. I have multiple things hung up all around the house that, unless like somebody slams the door or there's an earthquake, which we live in Florida, we don't really have that much. Yes, black kyanite's really good to use too. But if they fall, not completely. Now, if they completely fall off, that means something is really trying to get in. But I have a couple of things set up to where if it does slightly fall or slightly move, then more than likely somebody has. And they have multiple times. I did a TikTok about it, actually. It was when I first started getting popular on TikTok. One of my wards started to fall, and I'm like, I don't know who you are, but get the fuck out. But the things that I would suggest against, do not use a pendulum. I would not use a pendulum if you think there is an entity in your house. Of course, don't use a spirit board, or dowsing rods. Now, the reason I'm specifically saying those three is because you're having to use your physical body to help with that energy transferring in. Now, if you have a pendulum that's in the jars, this newer thing, this is just rainwater. But this newer thing, which I love the idea, you basically get a regular jar and you attach a hook to it and then have your pendulum free hanging. That way you can actually put your pendulum on the table or on a flat surface and not even touch it, and you can do divinations like that. I actually like that idea because we do have tiny, tiny nerve endings in our hands and muscles that could slightly twitch. Now, with dowsing rods, they do have it now to where they'll have an extra casing around it to where you're not physically touching it. And the spirit boards are not bad. But again, depending on the culture, too, this is why I hate, we need new terms, because one term, there's too many umbrella terms. But depending on the culture, reaching out or even answering something from a negative entity or a negative presence could very well set that connection up for them to start oppressing you. But, like, if you do and you sling holy water on somebody, they're not going to, no. You'll know if somebody has an attachment. Somebody have made multiple attachments, but I would suggest using tarot or oracle, just the simple yes or no's or stuff like that. Now, because a lot of people, I hate when they do this too, a lot of people will automatically, if they have a couple of weird things happen, they automatically burn sage or burn something that's cleansing. Why? If it's a normal house spirit, especially if it's like residual, like if they were there before you, why? Why kick it out? Why push it out? Now, that's also a controversy because most people say that if you burn sage, and I even have friends that believe this too, again, I agree to disagree. If you burn sage and you have your ancestors or spirit guides there, it's also going to cleanse them out too. I don't believe that, as in the simple fact, I guess it goes into your attention, because I have culinary sage, kitchen sage, that I'll literally burn in this multiple times throughout my day. And it's not to, like, push out the spirits, but any negative things or anything like that, I will push out. But, like, another thing, Dybbuk box, and I hope he does not see this. Dybbuk box, that term is not real. Like, it's not. Now, a Dybbuk is. That is a Jewish term of basically a demon or a ghost or negative entity. But a Dybbuk box in itself, it was created by the person who started the whole thing about Dybbuk boxes. But like, I mean, I know people who collect haunted objects. If you collect them, then that's one thing. But if you go, even jewelry, especially jewelry, because you gotta think, when it comes to jewelry, I'm not saying that, like, all demons attach themselves to, like, jewelry and stuff, but with jewelry, items that basically somebody can attach itself to, these are going to be like chairs. You know those old school chairs, or you know how most elderly people, most everybody, they have that one chair in their house that they love. It's theirs. Okay, if they passed away in it, their spirit may attach itself to that. Pianos, but with jewelry or any memorial thing, anything that you're wearing constantly, because that's the point of wearing protective jewelry, is because you're also intertwining your energy with it. That's one of the reasons the pentagram that I have, the one that I've had since I was like 13, 14, no, I got that when I was like 12 or 13. I only allow a certain selected group of people to actually wear it. And if they do wear it, I have one rule that nobody else will touch it. Just because that pentagram has been through hella high water for me. And yes, any musical instruments, anything that somebody has basically put their passion or energy into. Couches, pianos, anything like that. Look, now the thing that I would suggest is when you get home, especially if you're an intuitive, you'll know if it's haunted or something like that. But if you do get a weird vibe, cleanse it. Now, again, we've talked about this before. If I say cleanse in my lives, I'm not automatically talking about sage. There's rosemary, there's rose petals, there's so many other herbs that people don't take into account. And I mean, if you really wanted to, and if you were really nervous, then set up like a little tiny cage. Now, what I mean by cage is get black kyanite, quartz crystal as an amplifier, and make a cage of that around the thing, and just let it sit outside for a while. But like, there's so much, like this one guy, he's on TikTok. I don't think he's a practitioner, but he's a collective of like weird and random things. He uploaded this video. Apparently he bought this jar that's been sealed and it has like this red stuff in it, and apparently it's the guy who sold it to him said that it had a practitioner's blood in it versus it also had demon blood in it, and literally he went viral overnight. Now, am I saying that that's not true? I don't know. Honestly, to me, it looks like Heinz 47 sauce that just got really, really fucking old. But people started to believe it, and it drives me crazy. But there's so much misinformation out there currently with the Twitter thing that was brought to my attention. Like this girl who, again, I'm not hating on her because I don't know if it's trolling or not. I'm hopefully going to find out because she was tagged in that video. But she has a huge presence on YouTube. She's got a huge presence on TikTok. A lot of younger people and newer people to the craft follow her. And she tweeted out that, like, there are 27 deities that are going to come together to fight this one demon because this demon has been fucking, possessing covens and taking over covens and just kind of just like doing a cross-country road trip around the United States fucking with people. And the amount of people that slightly believed her, and then the amount of people that didn't believe her. But again, I don't know for sure if it was a troll, but that's that bullshit information that people are going to believe. Yeah, and she's also on the demon side. Like, she basically said that she was just a messenger of what's happening, and they do work with this. 24 deities, actually, I'm sorry. And see, and a lot of people in the tweet, in the thread on Twitter, they actually ask her, are you okay? Is your mental health okay? Because, like, come on, really? For one, that's a new trend that I've already talked about, where we're having, like, people start to worship and follow or work with demons and, like, the darker deities, we'll say that. And when I mean darker, I don't mean evil, like Lucifer or, Hades and stuff like that. And they're only doing it for clout. That's all they're doing it for, is clout. And it drives me crazy. Right? Like, I don't understand it either. And it's just... I also made another video. and this is the last time I'm going to address this, when it comes to open or closed practices, this is the only advice that I can give. If you were drawn to that practice, research the hell out of it. That way you don't disrespect anything, and then start practicing it. If they answer to you, if that energy of that system answers to you, then by all means work with them. Because I've had so many people ask me, well, what happens if you've had a past life, and in that past life you worked with that culture? By all means, go for it. I would not just post it online, because you're probably going to get a bunch of hate. That is in itself a whole nother ball game. But yes, also, please remember this. If you are doing magic for somebody else or on somebody else, whether you have their permission or not, we're not having that conversation, but if you do, please keep this in mind. If they have attachments, which is something you would also need to check depending on what's going on and depending on what type of spell, if they have attachments, that is going to affect... Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. By the way, people, I know y'all can't see the comments. I have somebody on Messenger who's also watching this and responding to me. That's what I've been, like, randomly answering. But think about that. Because if that person has attachment and you're doing magic and you didn't know that, those attachments can come out for you. I mean, of course, protection and stuff like that. Another thing that I wanted to talk about really quick. It's getting warmer in most regions, so most people are going to start practicing outside. Think of alternatives rather than salt. For one, salt can be extremely bad for the environment. It can also be bad for the insects. On top of that, too much salt in dirt will actually prevent anything from growing there. It's called razzing. So, like, there are alternatives. Eggshells. Somebody suggested oats. Not only are oats protective, but the birds will also eat them as well. Eggshells. You've got cornstarch, wheat, different types of flour. You can use rocks, sticks, twines, flowers. That's actually one of my plans, where I'm actually going to create a circle around my circle of wildflowers. Another controversial thing that a lot of people are not talking about, and it could have changed, but from my understanding, in a huge conversation and debate that happened in like 2008, we know salt because it absorbs, we were told, negative energy, but actually salt absorbs all energy. So that brings the question, when you do a circle of salt, are you actually neutralizing the energy you're trying to build up? I don't really use salt that much, and it was also asked, well, instead of using salt at, like, your windows and your doors, can you use, like, crushed eggshells or flour or salt or something like that? Yes. Brick dust is also a great thing to use. You're not really hurting the environment at all by grinding up brick dust. Now, if you do make brick dust, please wear a mask. It's the same thing with grinding bones. Wear a mask. That stuff can get into your lungs and cause a lot of issues. There's even, I was working with, wild berries. I don't know the actual technical term, but the little purple, the red berries that eventually grow purple. I was drying their leaves out and using an actual coffee grinder and grinding them up. I'm actually slightly allergic to the leaf. I can eat the berries, but there's something in the leaf. Every time that I worked with the crushed leaf, because I wasn't wearing a mask, I would get, like, ill as, like, nauseous. Like, I was almost puking. I found out it was because I wasn't wearing a mask, and there was something in it that was making me sick. So that's another thing. Now, another controversial thing that you can also do is baneful herbs. Now, what I mean by this is, if you research herbs, because we do have here in America, baneful herbs. Now, if you're going to collect any of these... Oh, no, not snakeberries. Some people call them wild berries. I've either heard them call wild blueberries or something like that, but they're the red little berries that, they start out red, and as they grow, they get bigger, and then they go from red to, like, this deep purple. You can research baneful herbs that would be used in, like, hexing and cursing and stuff like that, and you can put them on your property for protection. Also, a witch's jar. Very simple to make, and if you can't actually bury them, because to me, that's actually not a newer concept, but I've never actually buried my witch's jars. Even if it was for the property, I always kept them tucked away somewhere out of sight on the property, just because I moved a lot. But again, if you can't get a flower pot, put it in the flower pot, put dirt in it, get a real flower or a fake flower, plant herbs that are for protection or plants that are for protection, because there's a lot of house plants that also can be used in the house as protection. And if y'all would like, I'll make a small little list and do that. I also wanted to say I did update my list on all the books that I have. I still have more to add. Some of those books that I've added to my recommendation list of like books that I'm reading, some of them you're going to have to find somewhere else, because there's one that I have. Do I have it with me right now? Is it this one? No. Okay, I have one by Silver Ravenwolf, and I looked it up on Amazon, and it's $98 fucking dollars. So, but I think it's just because they don't print them that much. I have two other books. One of them are priceless, as in I can't find it, and then I have another book that's like, supposedly it's like worth 900 and something. But you can normally find those books at bookstores. Some of them may be out of print. I'm not really for sure on that. And yes, I said Silver Ravenwolf. I know, she's very complex, complicated situation there. But some of her older stuff is good. I did finally figure out why a lot of other practitioners hate her as well. I did not know that. But apparently, on top of re-putting out information, the whole culture appropriating thing, and yeah, all of that. I have not forgot. I am still going to post a couple of pictures in reversal and protection magic, like I said I was. Now, tomorrow, I don't know if I'm going to go live, because I actually, this is true. But I do have the interview tomorrow with the traditional witch. The interview that I have to be on Graveyard Gatherings, we've had like connection issues, but that's perfectly fine with us because we know it'll happen at the perfect time. But my episode will be kicking off her season, and it will not be posted like the following night, because she's actually she does certain things to hers to like do it more professional. But anyways, when she gets all that in the promotion, she's going to send it to me when it actually happens. And then I have the interview tomorrow. Wednesday, I should be able to do one, but I do have a reading as well, but that's not until later on. So yeah, I'm still like setting up times and dates. I've got to get this one, the one that I'm doing tomorrow. Once I get that out of the way, I'll be able to start moving more people in. I was actually talking to Bloody Mary, and we're actually in the process of trying to figure out a date as well. On top of that, there's a lot of other misinformation. Contrary to popular belief, if you try to do anything voodoo, you're not going to die doing it. I do have a second TikTok. And it's basically, and y'all feel special because I haven't really told anybody what it is, but it's Fire Lotus 2.0. Now on that one, I'm only actually going to be posting spells. And those are the videos that I think I'm going to start posting on here as well. Which a lot of the things that I've already talked about on there, we've already discussed on here. I will say, though, I was shocked because I posted 2 videos on there, and I woke up the following day, and I went from 38 followers to I'm almost at 500. So that's going to be fun. I will post the hilarious video, because I know y'all are going to kick out of it, that I made this weekend. Basically, like, I walk outside, because I don't normally troll people, and if I do, I'm going to tell you I'm trolling people, but, I just got to the point where, like, I'm so done with this, and I was so stressed out that I wanted to walk away, so I was like, fuck it, why not just troll? So I started trolling people. It was very fun, though. I did have a creepy experience, and I did want to ask y'all as well, because it could explain a couple things. I tried to get a video of it, but I couldn't actually. Update, though, thankfully, out of this situation. I'll explain it with an upcoming episode. So the other night, Saturday night, we were outside and we were cooking dinner because my father-in-law's over, and all of a sudden we saw this black thing like fly up into the tree, and at first we thought it was an owl because my father-in-law was right beside me. We were talking, and then all of a sudden we heard it. We had a fucking whippoorwill. I think I said that right. Fly into a tree, right? But the creepy thing was the tree is directly in front of us. It's also right next to my place where I practice outside. It kept flying back up to the branch that was directly in front of us, hooting, and then flying back to the tree, hooting, flying back. And it kept doing this for about 30 minutes. So I left my phone out there recording on video, and then I walked inside 2 hours later, or about an hour and 14 minutes. I realized that it was still outside. But what I'm going to do, because that audio that I got, you can't really hear it, but it's like the meditation videos it's like the meditation episodes that I've done. So what I plan on doing is probably today, if I can get around to it, I'm going to upload that video, extract the audio, and there's going to be a very long walkthrough meditation. That's going to be an episode. Now, what I mean by walkthrough is you're going to hear an audio of me, like, doing the walkthrough thing, and then after that, it's just going to be straight up nature sounds. And then I'll come back in shortly after that and be like, I'll count back down to get you to come back. I do suggest not doing those while you're driving or anything like that. Primarily like at nighttime or just in the daytime to use. Now, with the walkthrough meditations, you don't necessarily have to meditate. Any way that you meditate while doing it, you totally can. But I think, because I've been meaning to do it and I've completely spaced on it. So that's the thing now. And then my place in general is just kind of chaotic because we had to shuffle a couple things around. Hold on, I gotta check something really quick. But yeah, I am gonna wind up making a YouTube video today as well. I'm hoping today. And then the next podcast, the next person that I should be interviewing, because I still haven't got up with Jake yet, should be Bloody Mary, because she actually asked me yesterday what would be a good day. That's going to be a very great one. Now, I am still looking into, and I'm going to do it today because my partner's here, so I'm going to test it out, of downloading, I also think that too, with me like having to rearrange everything that we've had to rearrange and like really clean up, or kind of unclutter things, I think it will definitely help too, because y'all know I do not like saying, oh, I think somebody's cursing me. But with both of my shoelaces breaking and them being on opposite foots and them being pretty new shoes, I'm starting to think somebody is actually trying to fuck with me. They're trying. They're not going to succeed, but I do think they're trying. So there's that. But yeah, Bloody Mary should be one of the next interviews that I do. There's a lot of weird shit. I honestly think it has to do with the eclipse that's coming up, which I don't believe that like that's a bad omen. Like most people do, but I do believe a lot of the things that have been going on that's been weird has been that. I also know, I know a lot of the weird things that's going to happen to me this year. It's just my return to Saturn. It's fucking driving me crazy, but I gotta learn a lot. Funny story though, for Saturday, right? LOL. So Saturday we got a random phone call, right? Well, right before Saturday we had recently got back from getting our medicine. Currently we just discovered that we can get Delta 8 gummies. Thinking that we were just about to have like a really, really relaxed weekend, one phone call led to my father-in-law coming over here, and around the time he came here was when the edibles hit. So it was a very interesting day, to say the least. And plus, I love it because we have so many conversations. We'd actually talked about getting him to come in and do an episode on just recording some of our conversations. But yeah, that's going to be very fun. I'm trying to think of anything else, like any major updates. Oh yeah, but that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to actually try to get an app that I can video call people. And if I can get one that actually works very well, I'm actually may start doing live interviews. Because this weekend, or last week, I also got to do my first ever live consulting with somebody, doing a live video call. So I think that's definitely going to become a newer thing. I don't know. I'm not really going to charge to actually do a consult with somebody. But like if anybody has like special work that they need done or anything like that, instead of messaging, and was also brought a really, really great tidbit of information that I never thought about before. When you're doing prosperity work, or if you're wanting prosperity to come in, never turn money down. Never do it, because that's also telling the universe that you don't want your blessings. And yes, I will be lighting for the honey jar the candle. I am planning on doing another honey jar next month, because this one was a success unlike anything I've ever had before, so I'm super excited about that. But yeah, those are the things that are coming up. I am going to be doing a community candle that will be free as well. But yeah, that's kind of currently what's going on. I have that podcast. The next biggest episode will be Bloody Mary. Hopefully I can get Jake Richards in very soon as well. And then we have Kieran. And then I have like 5 to 6 people that I have to set up interviews with. First, me being I have to go out and get headphones today. I'm trying to think. There was a couple of other things that I wanted to talk about, and my brain is just my brain. Wow, my brain is causing me to be like, look. And then apparently now what's trending with Llewellyn's, because I got 2 of their catalogs they keep sending me to. Oh, what was that? Oh, very cool. Very cool. So anybody that's on my Discord, an announcement will be coming soon. And yes, for anyone who did not know, I do have a Discord. Just click my link tree and it'll take you to it. And it's actually been really cool. It's basically like my lives, but just, you know, constantly. I love it. But yeah, that's what's going on. The Eclipse is the 26th. It's going to be the Kickstarter to Eclipse season. I think it's the 26th. Yeah, May 26th, we're having a lunar eclipse on the flower moon. I don't know if it's going to be visible here or not. I'm not for sure on that. And then the 29th, Mercury goes into retrograde. But we all know that when Mercury goes into retrograde, if things do start happening that are negative, it's happening for a reason. Okay. Brian, okay. Sorry, I was looking over my schedule. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for now. I am going to pull some cards like I always do, because I still got things to do here at the house. I will say, Jason, the guy who sent me the bath salts, I have to stop saying that, bath soaks, he will be opening his business, I believe this summer or possibly fall, but some of the oils and candles that he is working on that he's been sharing with me, holy shit, y'all. Definitely gonna be, oh yeah, by the way, speaking of that, I have to reiterate this, you do not have to lock your your mirrors. Contrary to what is going around online, your mirror, unless you have specifically used a mirror in your house, in your craft, as in scrying or something like that, you do not have to lock or bind your mirrors. They are not portals where demons and ghosts and goblins and ghouls can just scroll on through whenever the fuck they want to. It has to do with protection. Protection, though, that's another thing that I am going to start focusing on more, because everybody needs protection, and they need to be redone and re-upped. Now, with that, when you're re-upping your protections on your property, it's always good to add something small and different. Add on, layer it up, just like we talked about when it comes to the magical residue that we talked about all that stuff caked on, that is good. That's reinforcing your thing. So the more protection you put on, the more that you redo it, the stronger it will become. Another thing that was brought to my attention that I'd never thought of is when you do protections, especially if you think somebody's actually trying to fuck with you, incorporate fog. I almost said smoke. Don't incorporate smoke. Fog. As in, you're creating a fog wall around your property. Because that's something that's not talked about. But when people astro travel, astral projection, second sight, or there's terms jumping over the hedge, or journeying, they can jump into where you are at. I also have protection set up with me. It's flies. What I mean by that, because you're probably going to be like, wait, everybody has fucking flies. Yes, but if I have flies that come in my magic room, 9 times out of 10, to me, that's signifying in my practice that there's a spy nearby. So yeah, another simple protection thing, put compact mirror. If you're doing work, put it on your altar and have it shining away. Put a mirror outside on your property reflecting away from you. It is extremely rare for someone to actually hex or curse you, especially if they're doing it over social media, but you can never be too sure. And some of the shit that was going on Witch Talk right now, they took it to a whole new level. As in, they actually sent a link out, the 2 people sent a link out to multiple other people around the globe to actually track their UPN, to track their VPN, basically figure out where the fuck they are. So of course, as always, if somebody ever randomly sends you a link, if you don't trust it, don't open it. But yeah, they can project themselves or send entities. Now, when I mean entities, I'm not necessarily saying they live in. I'm talking about the entities that they create. I think one term is servant or serves. They can send them to your property. Whether they get in, multiple barriers, but they can. I've had it happen to me multiple times. People have tried to project themselves here to see what the fuck I was doing, and it normally backfired. Because when I mean you can set up protections, there are multiple things you can do. The next time it's Halloween, go to Dollar General. It does not have to be this expensive one, or Dollar Tree, right? Get some of the gargoyles that they have. You can actually enchant that to where there is a physical or there is a energetic gargoyle there to where if someone projects into your house, that bitch will jump out of there and attack it. So you're not really doing anything. You will have to feed it. It's kind of like a mojo bag or a honey jar. Now you can come up with multiple different ways of feeding that, whether it's like, giving it something or rubbing some type of protective oil on it. And it doesn't, if you like cats, dogs, any animal you like, get a statue of it, set the intention and set up that energy to where it's like a guard dog. So if somebody is trying to break into your house astrogetically or energy, it's gonna kick their ass. I have multiple ones on my property. Basically, in a way that the most easier way that I can do it, you know how guardians, their graveyards have guardians. Basically, that's what I'm saying. Create house guardians, like a house gnome. But actually set that intention to where there's an energetic being that will come out of it and actually protect you. And that's something that's not really talked about either. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy to do, because you are going to have to know how to work with energy. And it doesn't have to be pretty. Like, you're not God. You're not creating the perfect creature. The more creepy, the more weird it looks, honestly, in my opinion, the better it is. But those are multiple things that you can do that are simple, easy, and on top of that, they don't necessarily signify that a witch lives there. They're just decorations. Or if you want to get creative, go get clay. But no, there was a concept that I just learned about from, she's not really a practitioner, but on TikTok she does ghost tours, and they have a saint or a deity of their house. Due to the fact that they're on a bus, an old bus, because they travel, there's these Hermie, but she actually uses an image of an old jazz singer. So, like, I think that's a lovely idea to have a house deity. And like I said, it doesn't have to be somebody or an actual deity. What I mean by that is it can be a deity, but you can get a modern picture of somebody and actually hold it and look at it. I mean, place it there and, bless your house. But yeah, okay, let me shuffle these cards really quick. And I might actually upload this one on YouTube. There's a lot of great information in this one. Alright. So, 3 of them fell out, and I normally don't do this. I'm picking 2 out of the, 6 of them fell out. I'm picking 2 out of the 6, which is, we have the 2 of Swords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I believe the 6 of Pentacles. So we're going to do 2 of Swords. Blocked visions and stalemate. The 2 of Swords depict 2 opposite forces that are reach a stagnant. You cannot progress forward with either a relationship or a life decision. There's an answer that's being blocked, maybe by choice. Many times this card will indicate that you do not wish to face the truth the light will reveal. And then 6 of Pentacles. Yep, 6 of Pentacles. Prosperity, growth, and generosity. The 6 of Pentacles indicates that your long-awaited fruits are ready for harvesting, beginning more wealth than anticipated. Make sure you are generous during this bountiful time. This card can also signify generosity coming from someone else. If this is the case, accept the help with grace and put the resources to good use. So there you go. There's something that's not coming through because it's being blocked, whether by choice or not by choice, but the light will illuminate the truth. And blessings may be coming. So, there we go. And those are actually positive. Holy shit. Normally it's like this weird negative card. But, yep. I think that's going to do it for today. And I'll update y'all if I do go live tomorrow. If I don't, because the interview that I'm doing tomorrow is at 1 o'clock. Normally it'll be posted shortly after that. Sorry, somebody just told me that's also, the 2 of Swords is also Shut the Fuck Up deck. And generosity, even if it isn't monetary. But, yep, that is it. So, yeah, if y'all have any questions or anything like that, y'all know my inbox is always open. Thank you, as always, for the likes, the shares, and honestly, y'all just showing up. So, yeah, until then, I hope you're all having a great Monday, and I will see y'all possibly tomorrow, if not for sure Wednesday.